And welcome to another episode of the Bandit Room. My name is Charles. I'm joined here in the studio today by Mr. Caleb.
Hello.
And across the table from me, Aggie is back.
Hey, hello.
Welcome back. Where have you been?
You know, bits and bobs here and there. I missed quite a few episodes because I was in Canada. Well, I went ice fishing over there. We didn't catch anything, but went snowmobiling for a couple of days. That was fun. I caught up with one of my old friends from a long time ago, and then I was at the truck show in Louisville the next week, and then went back to Denver for a different convention for Tax 990, and then last week I was in Tennessee and Kentucky doing some riding up the mountains there on side by side, so that was a lot of fun.
Okay. Not flying this time, riding.
Riding, yes.
Okay.
Might go flying later this afternoon.
Later. Okay. Gotcha. Were you staying in one of those little cabins on the ice?
No. We didn't stay there.
Thing.
I was like behind by about 2 weeks. The snow had already started melting.
Too dangerous.
But I did stay with my friends. Like they have a 100-acre farm and horses, and they're cattle farmers, so It was a different lifestyle to experience.
No snowmobile. No snowmobile accidents while you were there?
No. I was careful.
That's good.
I'm careful, man.
Awesome.
Got like 350 paychecks I'm responsible for,
That's
so
true.
I don't take a risk.
Very good. That's Aggie. Doesn't take any risks in his life. Good summary. Our guest today is Mr. John Gettys, the mayor of Rock Hill. Thank you for joining us again, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. I wish I could get away with saying bits and bops here and there. I got to figure this out.
Aggie's got bits and bops all over the place.
That's right. That's right.
We don't know what's going on. Well, we had you here. It's been a year since a pretty significant event happened, and particularly in your life. We've been documenting it on the show here quite a bit. The Panthers training facility that was at one point supposed to be here in Rock Hill.
Yep. We have the rendering for it.
We've got the rendering here to remind us every day about what.
If you leave me alone in this room, that rendering might be a little different.
We made sure there were no blunt objects that he could get a hand on. There's no darts in here. For those who haven't been following, the Panthers training facility was going to be here in Rock Hill. They pulled the plug, leaving you to kind of clean up the mess, essentially. I mean, is that a fair assessment from your...
That's at least my assessment.
That's yours?
Right.
So how have things changed? So where are things currently with the, you're calling it the Hutchinson property,
yes,
right? That is the official term?
That's right. The Hutchinson family owned that property for generations upon generations. Mm-hmm. And except for this brief interlude, they've been the owner of a good bit of it. So the deal was terminated, I guess best we could say, about this time last year, thereabouts, when GT Real Estate filed bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. GT Real Estate being a corporation or a limited liability company that was the owner of the property, backed by DT Sports and other financial organizations, all related to David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. His filing bankruptcy sort of was the end of a couple of month effort, in my opinion, of him calling the city of Rock Hill and others out as not being able to get the deal done, and love the chance to talk about that. Mm-hmm. By mid-November or so, we had worked out a deal in bankruptcy to get the property back. Mm-hmm. The city had. Then by December at a hearing, the bankruptcy judge issued an order that, in effect, ended up with the city of Rock Hill owning the property that we refer to as the Hutchinson property.
Gotcha. So the city owns it now. Over all that time, was there anything that you would change in the way that the city handled the process thus far?
There are a lot of stories that are to be told around this. Mm-hmm. And I think a couple of the stories that haven't been told that need to be, so I'm happy to do it here.
Let's do it.
Is just how strong a city council, how strong a city management team, and how strong the people of Rock Hill, by and large, are. No secret, February, March of last year, news reports started coming out that the deal was getting soft because the city of Rock Hill couldn't go to the bond market, mm-hmm. which is not true. Mm-hmm. The city council, we held together. If you'll remember, about that time in miscellaneous business at the end of a meeting, the city manager and I had a colloquy where I would ask him questions and the city manager would answer, and we walked through the facts. And at the end of that, beginning and end, sort of quoted President John Adams, who I'm not sure you can really attribute it to him. That's the thing with Wikipedia. You can't attribute anything to anybody. But he said that facts are stubborn things. And so when we went through this argument of facts are stubborn things, when you look at the deal itself, you realize that these public pronouncements, these articles in the newspapers, television stations out of Charlotte mostly, were buying something that was being told but not looking at contracts. And it's awfully hard for an elected official who represents people that he or she grew up with or raised their children with, like friends or otherwise, to take that kind of misstatements of fact stated, in my opinion, to get you to the negotiating table to give away the farm and not respond. And our city council held tight. And to me, that is a great story about a group of elected individuals who understand that facts are important and understand that giving your word is important and understand that trying to litigate things like that in the public, you're not going to win. We just don't have it. We're government, right? He's an individual billionaire. And I think it falls into a narrative that our government doesn't work anymore. And I think our council showed, and especially our city management team showed, that government does work in Rock Hill. And I think that's all been borne out as more comes out. I think it will continue to be. But I can't tell you the number of times, and when it was really tough, that people would either call me at my law office, stop me in the street, call me on my cell phone, and just say, John, just want you to know I've known you all my life. I've never seen you tell somebody a lie. Look at what's happened in Rock Hill before you, when Doug was mayor and Betty Jo was mayor. Y'all do things the right way. So just hold tight. We're behind you. And I can tell you, some days those came right at the right time, right? So, we've been through it all. It's all played out. Love the chance to sort of talk about, how all that should have worked, why it didn't work, and go through that. But I'm just really impressed with each member of City Council. We don't do this as a profession. And each professional at City Hall that spent a lot of time working through a lot of issues.
Have you experienced any sort of conciliatory measures to ease the process from the other side thus far? Or has it been relatively combative?
Well, I think this sort of falls into my previous answers. We didn't get combative. We held to facts. We held to the way we handled things. And, as bankruptcy was filed, there's an opportunity in bankruptcy to file a lawsuit, which they call an adversary proceeding. And so when we filed an adversary proceeding alleging that the other side had breached the contract that they were alleging in public that we had breached, but never on paper, we did something a bit unique. Most of the time when you have a lawsuit, you file a lawsuit and you say, I was in a car, Bob hit me in his car, I broke my leg, I don't know how much I'm owed, but I want to go to court, right? In this case, we did that differently. We laid out in every paragraph of the complaint a fact. We cited documents, we cited emails, we cited testimony that we knew someone would give, and we were very fact specific in the complaint or the adversary proceeding. And in a lawsuit or an adversary proceeding, one side says, this is why I think they harmed me, and the other side gets an option or that gets the availability to file an answer that says, no, you're wrong, or an answer and counterclaim that says, no, you're wrong, and oh, by the way, here's how you harmed me, right? So we filed our adversary proceeding. We were very direct in how things would play while we felt like the other side breached the contract. And they didn't take too kindly to it. There were some filings that were made, statements that were put out publicly about how the mayor had an altered sense of reality. I remember the terminology. Okay. But they never answered. And they never filed counterclaims.
So they didn't do that?
No. So all of their accusations, all of their statements, everything was done outside of court, in the news media, and nothing substantive was ever said otherwise in court or bankruptcy court.
Interesting.
A lot of lawyer talk, but other than that.
No, that's interesting. Now, this is probably pure speculation, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do you have any thoughts on what the ultimate why would be as to why the other side pulled the plug on this whole deal?
Well, it is all speculation. I mean, I don't know.
Right, because we're not, and they're not going to tell us.
Right. But let's look for reasons that they continued on and didn't change their minds. COVID came.
Yeah.
Didn't slow them down.
Right.
Supply chain issues came. Didn't slow them down. Some people came and went. Didn't slow them down. Their side says they put over $200 million into the site. I don't dispute that. I don't know what it is, but sounds about right. None of that got slowed down. The way the financial foundation of this deal worked required certain things to be done, and required, based upon the other side's theory of how they would do their side, required other parties coming into the deal, buying or building or improving property to create property taxes. Never heard another deal getting announced, right? Don't know if somebody just woke up one morning and changed their mind because they have the wherewithal to do that. Don't know if the development was not going to build out as quickly as people's dreams and thoughts were. Don't know what any of that is, but I do know what it wasn't. And it wasn't supply chain, it wasn't COVID, and it wasn't anything that was in control of the city of Rock Hill.
Interesting. And based on the way that they're handling the legal proceeding, they're not acting as though they are someone that was wronged, is what it sounds like. It sounds like they're just looking to get out as quick as possible and move on to something else.
Sure. It's over. Everything's done. They're out. We're out in effect in mid-December, and they've moved on. There's a few entanglements still out there. Don't have really much to say to each other, and we're all better for it.
Okay. Well, describe the location now. There have been some.
Well, before we go into that, Charles,
sure.
Since there is a separation here, right? Are you still a Panther fan?
So, when all this started,
right,
I bought some PSLs.
Right.
My son at the time, I have 3 boys. My youngest is still at home. He's heading to South Carolina in the fall. So I figured, look, his brothers are gone, Panthers, I'll buy some PSLs, and we've held those PSLs. I hadn't been to a game in about a year. Right. I am not paying for my PSLs this year.
Wow.
So he'll get them back.
Okay. Well, I'm holding on until the last minute. Should I renew my PSL or not?
Gotcha.
We have really
How long
nice
do we
season.
have to decide?
I believe like end of May or maybe April, something like that. I keep getting reminder emails, so I haven't decided. We talked about it quite a bit, and so I'll wait until the last minute to decide.
Hold out.
But are you going to watch Panther football?
You know, and that's the thing, and I've been asked this before. You know, anytime you get a chance to watch a world-class athlete in his or her arena,
right?
You know, not the stadium, but their arena, where they compete, where they do things, I think is just a wonderful thing to watch. I really enjoy collegiate sports, certainly professional sports, and just seeing the difference in life and the way people can do things. So I just take a lot of enjoyment right now from the Atlanta Braves. I watch them. I have them on every night.
Okay.
I had the Panthers on during the year. I can tell you when it was a hard game and a bad game, you know, I felt bad for the kids to me, on the field and the coaches, and certainly, you know, they're professionals and you wish them all the best. And you know, I was a big Carolina Panther fan up until all this. I think I'll be a big Carolina Panther fan after the present owner moves along, if that ever happens. But between now and then, not so much.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I've heard that storyline, a similar statement from some of my friends, and there's some who are like completely done with Panthers, and some that are so like it's still my team. Tepper can't come and change my team to me. He may have a passing through. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Well, it's a new coach, and
Yeah.
they're putting together a new team. We'll see how the season goes. Maybe I'll decide after the season.
Well, the really successful franchises, and no matter what sport it is, have great athletes. But every team has great athletes, right? Most of them have really good coaches,
Right.
sometimes not so much, and good programs, good strength training, good all this. But if you look at the professional sports franchises that do really well pretty much year in and year out, at least middle of the road above, year in, year out, they have stable ownership.
Right.
And I think that really says a lot about a franchise. and
That's
where it's
true.
going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Just gotta get through a rough patch here.
Express Tax Exempt is now tax990.com. We changed our name to make it even easier to recognize us, but everything you know and love about Express Tax Exempt is still here. Tax990.com still provides you with easy Form 990 filing, free schedules, great customer support, and much more. Learn more at tax990.com.
So describe the property now. There's been a lot of demolition now. I would say there have been considerable improvements on this property. It's got its own exit at this point. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So it's about 240 acres right off I-77. We have an interstate interchange. Exit 81 is what it'll be. The main road coming off the interchange is Palmetto Parkway. We changed that name from what it was before once we had the ability to do so. We'll see what it is. This road that's coming off the interchange will go into Mount Gallant, so it'll sort of bisect the property. And I think the best way to look at this site, at least in my opinion, and who knows how it ends up, is it's not one 240-acre site. It may be 5 or 6 30 to 50-acre sites, right?
Interesting.
And if that's the case, and if if we can catch lightning in a bottle here or there, maybe we have some corporate headquarters, some advanced manufacturing, really high wages, health care maybe, so that we can continue to grow our community so that it's sustainable going forward. We have taken the facility down. Cost us a grand total of $1. Best dollar we ever spent. Local guy, Jim Triplett, and his company took the facility down. They're going to sell the steel and do with it what they can. The items that were on the site that were not the structure itself the city of Rock Hill will end up maybe making about $500,000 on the sale of that, and we're applying that to our match, if you will, to that interior road that's coming from the interstate to Mount Gallant.
Okay.
So real excited about where it's going. A lot of infrastructure underground, a lot of infrastructure above ground with the roads. So the one thing I'm very thankful for is that financial health of the city allows us to be very patient. And I think when you look in the Charlotte metro region, when you look around South Carolina, to see an interstate interchange that directly exits onto 245 acres with water, sewer, electricity, 20 minutes from an international airport, 77, 85, 485, 95 not too far away, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
And I think if we're patient, we'll do real well with that property.
Right. As long as you're not.
So are there any plans to have like a mixed use opportunity there?
Right. So we've talked a lot about what could the site be, and I think what we've decided more is what it's not going to be, right? So it's not going to be warehouses. It's not going to be distribution facilities.
That's good.
It's not going to be a lot of residential or property. What we have is our city manager is sort of keeping a list of those that might call and inquire about the site. Nothing really jumps out yet. Had a call about a hotel. I'm not interested in a hotel. Now, you want to bring in a convention center? I'll talk to you. Right.
Right.
So just making sure we elevate
Right.
this opportunity, because I think if you went to any mayor, city council and said, hey, we're going to give you 250 acres by the interstate, don't blow it, I think that's where you'd find us right now.
Yeah, definitely not any storage. Oh, God, there's storage buildings
car washes,
everywhere, man. Oh.
Everywhere.
Is that true? A few years ago, I don't know who I was talking to, they said, you're not allowed to have storage space anymore inside the city limit. Is that correct?
We put a moratorium on that. It lasted
Okay.
about 6 months. The thing about anything in any community is you create a zoning plan, you have classifications, and certain things fit into classifications by definition that you don't really stop and think about individually. And so what we found is a lot of storage places and car washes and things coming, and they could fit into certain zoning classifications. And so we introduced a moratorium, and we sort of cleaned up the language as to where they would be preferred versus where they were, could go at the time.
Gotcha.
So you can come in and do that. If you're going to ask for a rezoning to do it, I think you're going to have a hard time getting 4 votes.
Okay.
Like with some other things. And that's really, I guess, to answer your question in a better way, I think where we find ourselves in Rock Hill right now is we've had a generation or two where we were, in effect, begging people to come here and create jobs. Please come here. We're Rock Hill. Come choose us over anywhere else in the Charlotte metro region. And very successful with that. Seen a lot of manufacturing, Domtar, all these companies that have come into our business parks that were started being built about 30 years ago, and they're all full now, and that's all great. But what we have an opportunity to do now, I think, in Rock Hill, and we're working very hard, is saying growth is here. It's coming to Rock Hill. It's coming to Charlotte. Everybody in the country is moving to the southeast.
Right.
It's net migration.
Right.
And we, I think, have a duty to be more selective and to think about what kind of jobs do we really want to be here, and can we hold back so that we're not reaching? And thankfully, we have a mature city council and city management team, and we know what we could do, but we're really working to try to make happen what we really want to happen. And that's fun.
So how do you say, let's say someone approaches and they want to build a warehouse and they were going to employ, I don't know how many, like 200 people they want to employ. How do you say no to them? Like, what do you tell them? What is it?
Well, it depends. So there's certain areas where they could go and do that outright. You
Okay.
can't tell them anything, right? I have the right to do this. This is the way the property's zoned.
Right.
A lot of times they're coming, trying to find land that hasn't been disturbed, and so they're asking you either to annex them into the city and let them do this, or to develop a piece of property that's not currently zoned for that use. In years past, I think the council would look at that somewhat favorably because it would create jobs.
Right.
You get a good tax bill every year from a 500,000 square foot building, brick and mortar, and it was an opportunity to continue to bring people to town. Well, now, because of where we are, we can, I'll just put it this way. A new deal in Rock Hill over at Waterford Park, Pallidus, it's a chip maker, semiconductor, the chips. The IRA Act, the Investment Reinventing of America, or whatever it was called, it went out and basically, and this may be a little bit far in my language, but basically said that electric vehicles, electric batteries, chips, those are now a national security concern.
Okay.
The United States of America believes it is smarter for our long-term safety and security that they be built onshore versus across the world.
Right.
This is the big China fight, right, that we hear about all the time.
Right.
And so they put a lot of money to help bring some of these companies to the United States. And it just so happens we got one of them in Rock Hill, Pallidus. They're over in Waterford Park. 400 jobs, give or take. Wow. Average wage, guess.
70,000.
Probably north of that.
Give me a guess.
I don't know.
Come on.
110.
I was going to say about 100.
It's $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what we can do.
Right.
And we're doing that not because they put a finger on the map, but they're doing that because the city of Rock Hill has invested for decades in our utility systems, in our electric system. That company that's coming in chose us over a place in Texas because what happened in Texas the last couple of years, right?
Power grid.
Power grid.
Yeah.
And so when they came and talked to us and we showed them that we're an undivided owner, an owner of an undivided interest in the Catawba Nuclear Plant Reactor 2, we got a pretty good deal going.
Yeah.
We can sort of guarantee we're going to have electric output. They don't have to worry about an interruption of service.
Right.
And to Jimmy Bagley and David Vion and Stephen Gibson and their whole teams, great credit. They've spent the last 10 years with redundancy. So if this line goes down, the other one that comes in the back end just clicks over. Businesses need that in today's
Oh, of course,
world,
yeah.
right?
We
all have to have
yeah,
that.
we have never had any issue with our electricity or our internet. It's in fact, we are very lucky to have that kind of facility.
Yeah, and most communities can't say that.
That's right.
Right. And so all these investments in our utilities over the last couple of decades are really starting to pay off because we're able to get these kinds of employers. So to answer your question, can you tell somebody no? Depending on the circumstances, you can say, look, you're a distribution facility, and we'd love to have you here because you'll create a lot of tax revenue for us. And we can take that tax revenue in the tax increment district and help rebuild the south side of Rock Hill.
Right.
But we really don't have to have you anymore. So here's the thing. If you want to come, that's fine. But, and we haven't done this, but I think we're going to start looking into this. I know we're looking into it. But for us to agree to that, you're going to have to make a contribution to the electric system.
Okay.
Or you're going to have to help pay for a new substation out in that area so we can put a transformer there and serve you and everybody else that's coming. So there's a place for it, of course.
Right.
But we shouldn't be asking for it. We should be negotiating as a result of it.
That's a good answer. So now that 250 acres that's owned by the city.
That's correct.
Anybody who's moving in there, would they be just leasing the land from the city, or would you be selling any parts of it?
Now you give me secrets. Right? So I think
Listen, I'm planning my next venture.
There you go. I think the general way you look at that with big economic development is most want to buy and own. But, some portion of that site, I think, the city would be well served if we did a ground lease. We own the dirt.
Right.
They can build and own the structure. And 40 years from now, or, when it ages out or they move on, or 20 years from now when the business folds or whatever, the city still owns the dirt.
Right.
So the uses that the city may need a generation or two from now, they have the ability to do that.
Right.
So we'll have to negotiate all that out. I would love for us to hold on to title of the dirt, or as much of the dirt as we can, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Do you have any connection or pull into Rock Hill Airport?
Well, Mayor of Rock Hill.
I was hoping for that answer. So, Mayor, you just said yourself perfectly here.
The director of the airport does work for the city.
I know,
correct?
yeah, it's owned by the city.
Great guy. Right. I don't have an airplane.
No. So the question, the new set of hangars
Yes.
is 2 years behind schedule.
Yes.
My airplane is getting pooped by birds, and it's very dirty.
Just birds?
Just birds right now. Okay. I don't have that many enemies in Rock Hill. Have you heard about it? Are you aware of it?
We got a briefing 2 months ago, and they were running behind. I know there was a lot of angst about trying to get this moving, but I'm not sure where that stands now. Have you heard anything lately?
It's one excuse after the other.
Yeah. Is there something with the apron that has to be paved in order for
the area has to be paved
to get done?
But it can't be 2 years behind schedule to put 4 metal buildings.
Yeah, I get you. I do. Let me check into it.
I mean, I bought a brand new airplane. And
What kind?
A Piper Archer,
Yeah.
Alexia, and I can't put any more covers on it because they don't stay on.
Right.
I'm gonna go from here and maybe go take a short flight, but it's just like everyone who parked the plane around me. Every time we see each other, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? It's like people are paid money and then just waiting around with no clear answer.
Yeah, I don't have a clear answer, but I'll get one.
Okay, well, awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
He said it on the radio here, so
Thanks.
keep that in mind here.
All right, so first off, What is something that you would say you spend way too much money on?
Oh, my kids. let me change that. My wife spends too much money on our kids. How about that?
Okay, fair enough. When you were growing up, what was your dream job, and is any part of that still true?
Oh, yeah. I always wanted to be a lawyer since the time I could remember.
Is that right?
Went to school, knew I wanted to be a lawyer, got accepted to law school. Before I went to law school, I went to Erskine College.
Yeah.
Okay.
The president at the time, Jim Strobel, pulled me to the side and said, "Don't waste your life going to law school. Go into higher education." I said, "Yeah, I think I did all right."
Now, when we had Bev Carroll on, her entrance to law was Perry Mason. Is that was that same for you?
Everybody watched Perry Mason. Of course, when I was, I guess, coming up, that was when you had, what was the law show that was out in Los Angeles, L.A. Law or some such, and all that, a little bit more glamour than Perry Mason. I preferred the Perry Mason, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's always a show on about something.
Yeah. Who would you say is your role model?
Well, of course, my dad was a lawyer. He's retired. My mom, school teacher, retired. Despite their oldest son, me, they did pretty well in life. And so I guess they'd be my number one mentors. My mom's father, my grandfather, was always looked out for me, and so many others. I've been blessed over the years to have a lot of older people sort of take me under their wing, and I'm much the better for it.
Nice. Speaking of TV, if you had a TV show or movie about your life, what actor do you think would play you?
So I'm 55 this year. So Walter Matthau or somebody really old and crotchety. That's what I aspire to be. How about that?
Okay.
Can I get a Walter Matthau in 20 years? As you grow, I guess different characters or different actors, but I think I like Walter Matthau right now.
That's a pretty good answer.
Okay.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, trust the Panthers. They're going to be okay. You can take our word for it.
It'll be great to work with.
Now, let me qualify that I did not take. You did right? That I did not take.
Yes. What's one thing outside of what you already do that you'd love to be an expert at?
Oh, writing.
Yeah.
I wish I could write. Write stories, write about people, do it in a manner that could really connect with others. That's something. I like to talk. I like to get up and I like to read and think about things I want to try to do and inspire and do stuff like that. But, people who could write really well are just supremely intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to get a tell-all book about the Gettys?
No.
The Gettys years?
Ain't much to tell.
Okay.
All right, last one. If you could meet anyone, past or present, who would it be?
Well, immediately you start thinking about, people in history that did so much. And when people get asked that question, I always feel like that's a throwaway. Of course you'd like to meet, Jesus Christ. Of course you'd like to meet Martin Luther King or Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Teddy Roosevelt or, you could go on, or people that are alive now, Tom Hanks or so many others. But I guess if I could, I don't know who the person would be. But I do think if I could meet someone that created beautiful music, wrote wonderful literature, and to sort of listen to them, or even maybe someone that was around when Rock Hill was founded in 1892, I think it was, and to ask them questions about, well, what do you think you'll get done here in this 2 square mile block in the middle of nowhere that's got all that bad rock, right? Or people historically that didn't know they were in the middle of history. Individuals maybe that dropped an atom bomb, to see how they wrestled with that after their life, after the event for the rest of their life, or just a poet. People just think. That's the one thing. And Joe Lamford, a former city manager, said this a few years ago. Not to me. I was in a room, and it just struck me. He said, I really like to try to make some time where I can think. And I've never forgotten that. I would like to have some time where I could just go somewhere and really think. Someone who's done that, I think, would be very fascinating to know.
Very cool.
Excellent answer.
How was Joe?
Or Aggie.
How was Joe Lanford? I haven't seen him in a while.
He's good. All right, so one thing, and I got to talk about this. One thing that we're doing in downtown Rock Hill that'll start to come up is something called a storyline. You go to D.C., you got the High Line. You go to Atlanta, you got the Belt Line. You go other places, and they have
New York High Line.
New York High Line. That's right. Where did I say?
D.C.
Oh, I'm sorry. New York High Line. I'm sorry. So the storyline is this line from Fountain Park to Winthrop University, and between the areas you would walk or ride a bicycle, and there'd be parklets along the way that would tell the story of our community. Tell the story of the Catawba Nation, tell the story of all these things that have made Rock Hill what it is over the years, or people that have made Rock Hill what it is over the year. Sort of like a necklace that as Joe says, a necklace that runs through town and has little pearls throughout. And I think that's really going to be a fascinating addition to our downtown area. I think it's going to be the kind of thing that if you bring your kids to play in the Sports and Events Center in 2022 and 2024, let's say, in 2025, you're having a team meeting to decide where you're going to go in your tournaments you're going to play, everybody's going to say, we're going to Rock Hill. And I think that something like that, with the growth, with the kindness that we have to people that visit us, with just all that's happening downtown, I just really think that's going to be a phenomenal thing. That's Joe's idea. That's something
fantastic.
Joe's been pushing for a while, and it's starting to sort of gel and come to fruition, so it's exciting.
Is he still involved in city activities, city planning, or is he completely retired?
Oh, no. He's the Herald redevelopment, the old Herald newspaper has come down. He's involved in that ownership group to build that and everything there. He owns the Wells Fargo building on Main Street.
Right.
He's talking about doing some renovations there for some retrofitting. The pedestrian bridge that we'll build over Dave Lyle on the railroad. He's had some comments on that, and we seek his advice, as well as what else we'll see throughout. He's not slowing down at all.
That's good.
So is that pedestrian bridge, is that kind of part of the storyline that
Yes,
you're
it
referring
is.
to? You could
Until
have,
that's built, you really can't
Right.
have a connected storyline.
Right.
So, one of the struggles we have on city council right now is everything's going so good. We're seeing so much success downtown and everywhere else that I get the feeling when we're talking about things that we're scared to death we're going to make a mistake, right? And a pedestrian bridge, that's a hard one, because how many pedestrian bridges do you see that nobody's on them?
Yeah.
Every one.
Oh,
of
yeah.
them. Every single one, just about.
Right.
And so you have to put yourself out there that, yes, we're going to build a pedestrian bridge. We know we need one because that train comes and people got to get over and back and forth.
Right.
But I'm not an artist. I'm not a bridge maker. So you hire consultants, you go through it. We went through one round of that. It took about 6 or 8 months. Just never really could get comfortable. We've now got a different engineering group. I think they're going to come up with some ideas to council in the next month to 6 weeks. And, I'm hopeful about what they may come. And, if that comes to fruition, they'll probably start construction on that about this time next year.
Wow.
So is that like with an escalator and a moving walkway?
No, probably not. So there'll be a parking deck on the Herald site, and there'll be a parking deck on the White Street, Rock Hill proper side, back behind Wells Fargo, up against White Street. And so between those, the way the land falls between those two parking decks, you can put that bridge and then have that bridge sort of walk down to White Street, which is where your trail would go up White Street and the like. Gotcha. So it's starting to really firm up well. And another big thing we're working on is a new regional park, a central park, which will be built, but I guess from that area all around to the American Legion on Heckle Boulevard, about 130, 140 acres from the old post office on Wilson Street, back up and around our old neighborhoods. That's going to be a wonderful thing. That's probably a $50-60 million project.
Yeah.
We've had an architect in place for that for a couple of years now, and we'll start, for a year now, we'll have start having neighborhood meetings on that maybe late summer. So we're going to have a lot of public investment going on in manners that bring more of it to Rock Hill. So it's going to be an exciting couple of years.
So the pedestrian bridge, is the city planning or focusing on just having a bridge or making it a landmark? Some exciting.
There
something.
you go. That's the $100 million question.
I think it should be an exciting thing.
I
Have you
agree.
seen that
I agree.
bridge there?
Agree with you.
Right.
The problem is, what does that look like? And you got seven
You got
people.
to bring in the right consultant.
You gotta
for
have
that.
and that's where we are.
You got to have a visionary.
That's right.
That's right.
That's where we are.
Do you think there is enough space and opportunity for a new airline to be based out of Rock Hill?
So we'll extend the runway. I think it'll probably be within the next 3 to 5 years. We go back away from Sonny's Road. That will allow for more of the same type of jets and planes to land there, just along the runway. So they, as you would know, they don't have to leave and then plan to stop and refuel between here and the West Coast or wherever else they're going.
Right.
That won't bring really an airline, as I envision an airline coming to Rock Hill. I don't know that we'll see something like that, but maybe a regional firm may show up at some point soon. We'll see.
Right on.
You got any ideas?
I do, but
All right.
we can talk about it later.
It's the interview after the interview.
Give too much away.
That's right.
All right, awesome. Yeah. Any final thoughts on how this past year's gone, or how hope you have for the future?
Well, I have a lot of hope for. I always have.
Yeah.
You know, where we've come from as a community, where we're headed. You know, we're in a unique position where I think with the property out on 77, the business park, the owners down 5 miles south of that off Porter Road, and the economic development we're seeing out in that area, taking the taxes from that and putting it into the south side of Rock Hill and seeing that marketplace be created and start to take off. You know, the next decade or two in Rock Hill is going to be just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What we've seen in the last 5 years is mind-blowing, but we lose sight of it because it's sort of like, you know, a frog in a pot. You just keep turning the heat up and he never jumps out. But look, the Exchange, brand new. Sports and Events Center. Look at the hotel in downtown. Talking about another one and a third coming in downtown. You look at these apartment buildings for students and otherwise right there at University Center. We used to have 2 parking decks 5 years ago. We're going to have a total of 7 or 8 within the next 3 years. I mean, that doesn't happen and nobody uses them. So
Right.
the number of people coming to downtown, number of people moving to the area really is just an exciting time, and it should call us all to take a half a step back and recognize the opportunity this provides to make it something significant rather than just what any other city would do.
Sounds good.
So do you, on a like something personal, have you bought any new sports cars or any classic cars, motorcycle?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago, I bought the first nice car I've ever had, a BMW X4. I love that car.
Right.
I feel guilty sometimes having something so nice.
Hey.
You know, a little bit here, a little bot there, a bit and a bot.
That's it. Little bits and bots.
A bit's and a bot.
Yeah.
Right
All
on.
over the place. Well, you've earned it, my friend. Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank y'all.
for dropping
Enjoyed
by.
it.
Thank you very much.
The Bandit Room is a production of Span Enterprises, located in sunny Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've been developing, supporting, and growing successful IRS e-filing and business management solutions since 2010. Go to spanenterprises.com now to learn more. The views and opinions expressed in the Bandit Room are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect or state the opinions of Span Enterprises. No information should be considered as tax, legal, or other professional advice.